Not too bad.
Not too bad at all.
I'm curious what yours does.
Oh, yeah.
You got not only the bigger engine, but the cam and the exhaust. I'm sure yours is just crazy. Well, what size of your tires? Are they bigger than the stock?
My tires are 265, 35 18s on the rear and 235 40 18 on the front.
Okay, so you even got more meat on the rears too. That's one thing that I know in this. I leave the traction control on most of the time, but I know when I go around some corners and I accelerate through them a little bit, I know the traction control likes to kick in a lot.
Oh yeah, definitely. Hello everybody, welcome to Casey's Garage. Today I'm here with Jason in his 2004 GTO. We're checking it out in addition with a few other GTOs that we're going to be checking out. The reason we're doing this is because, honestly, we're doing it because Donut Media made a video about the history of the GTO, and basically what he said was the new gen of the GTO was no good. It sucked because it was imported from Australia. So the objective of this video is to demonstrate how not only the 2004 to 2006 GTOs are actually worth noting, how they were extremely important to the car world. So we're going to be doing several GTOs that have been modified. In this case, this one is stock, and we're going to show off all the different things the GTOs did. Understand that these cars are from 2004 to 2006, and while they may not be extremely fast compared to other cars of today, they were some of the fastest cars you could buy for $40,000 or under in 2004 to 2006. They were absolute monsters, and they're a huge part of the reason that these cars that we can buy today are even around. Now, Jason, let me ask you a few questions about your GTO. So this is a 2004, right?
Yeah.
Now, has anything been done to this car?
No, it's completely stock outside of the wheels.
Completely stock outside of the wheels? Okay. And you're running 17s or 18s?
17.
17.
It's
so
just the stock size.
Stock size. Well, that's not bad. Now, this has the LS1. It's the only year that came with the LS1, the 5.7 liter V8. I believe it's pushing out about 360 horsepower. Now, how would you say that it feels? Would you say that you definitely feel all the power?
You can feel it. It's the fastest car I've owned.
All right. Now, let me ask you this, because in my experience with my GTO, I've had all sorts of things like try to race me, things like that. I've beat Corvettes and stuff with the 5.7, and the one thing that I've noticed is in a drag race, my car would take almost anybody. I imagine you would have the same sort of experience. But
similar experiences, yeah.
But one thing I noticed, I actually did an autocross in my GTO not too long ago, and I noticed that even though it was really fast, I had to slow way down just a corner because it just did not corner well. Now, do you have that issue with your GTO as well?
Yeah, just because of how heavy it is.
Right, right. Now, these cars are about 3,700 pounds. Have you had any thoughts on trying to lighten it up?
I don't ever use the rear seats, so honestly, I'm still considering just taking them out and leaving them out for now.
Well, that's interesting. I actually was looking into a rear seat delete kit. Now, what that does is it removes the heavy rear seats and replaces them with a light plastic seat.
That would probably be a good idea.
Right, right. Now, I'm not 100% sure on the weight distribution. Have you looked into weight distribution for like trying to keep it more 50-50, or are you just looking into...
Not really.
So you're just looking into bulk weight delete versus balancing the weight?
Yeah, for the most part.
Okay. And what's your fastest speed you've gotten this car up to?
I got it up to 118 before I wimped out and slowed back down. Starts to feel like you're flying when you hit that speed.
Oh, definitely. And you've even got the wing on yours to help keep the rear end down on their car.
A little bit. But unless I got some better tires and some newer suspension and stuff like that, I don't think I'd be willing to push it past 120.
Well, one problem with the GTO that a lot of GTO owners have noticed is the suspension was never really that great from the start, and pretty much everybody has done suspension upgrades to their cars. Now, is that something that you've thought of doing?
I've heavily considered it.
What kind of gas mileage have you gotten in this car?
My average, the meter on here when I go through the menu says I'm getting 16. It feels like I'm getting way less than that, but I also drive with a really heavy foot, so.
No, I understand. I drive with a heavy foot too, and that's about what I get in mine, is 16, 17. Now the 5.7, this being the only year of the 5.7 LS1 in the GTO, do you feel like that makes this particular one special versus the other 2 years?
To me, it feels like it's the odd one out. It feels like the other ones are more special because of it.
Okay.
You get the extra 50 horsepower and all that stuff with the other one, so.
I can see where you're going from there. Now, another thing that I've noticed in these cars is, so the 04 didn't come with, the hood scoops didn't come with dual exhausts. It came with the kind of ugly stock wheels. It came with all that stuff. Like, I mean, even the 05 and 06, their stock wheels, I think they were the same wheels actually, but they were all terrible. But it didn't come with a lot of the cool things that the 05 and the 06 did, and a lot of people say for that reason the 04 felt unfinished.
I would agree with those people to some extent. I think that this is a great car, even so. The problem is that you're taking something that was really good and you're comparing it to something that's just great, and then that takes that good thing and kind of makes it doesn't look as good at that point.
I would definitely agree with you. I think while the GTO was a phenomenal car, and not only did it definitely change the way cars were done, in fact, I would even go so far as to say that because we were at a time where the Mustang had no competitors, and so they were just kind of throwing them together, here's a Mustang, whatever, and they didn't really care because it didn't really matter. People were still buying Mustangs. It gave the Mustang a competition, which opened up more avenues for power from Chevy and from GM, and then from Mopar started making, like the Chrysler Corporation started making the Chargers and the Challengers again. And I think if it wasn't for the GTO, we wouldn't have this second horsepower war that's causing all these 500, 600, 700 horsepower from the factory with the warranty cars out there. And while I think it's really cool that not only did the GTO do that in the first place because they put the smallest car with the biggest engine, started a horsepower war in the 60s, 70s, they did that again with the GTO in the mid-2000s. While I think it's awesome that the GTO did it twice, I would definitely agree with a lot of people that would say that the modern body styling and everything of the current GTO definitely kind of muddied the brand name of GTO.
I agree with that.
But then again, it's one of those things that's like, you get a car that's so great, no matter what you do, you're never going to live up to the expectations of the people that have been waiting for it. Now, my thought on that is like, if they were to ever bring back the Chevelle, I would absolutely love it if they were to bring back the Chevelle. But again, with the GTO, it's probably the same thing. If they were to bring back the Chevelle, no matter what they did, they would probably make all the purists of the Chevelles so upset. No matter what they did, they probably couldn't do it right. And I feel like that's what happened with the GTO.
I think that's true.
Now let me ask you, if you were to do anything different to your GTO to make it more comfortable, more powerful for you, what would you like to have done to your GTO?
The biggest thing would be, well, outside of like the basics, tires, suspension, centrifugal supercharger, just because they're so easy.
Like a ProCharger setup?
Yeah.
Those are really cool. I've actually been thinking about that sort of thing myself. I'd like to get all the suspension dialed down before I did that, but I also thought centrifugal supercharger because, well, for one, you don't have to like cut a hole in your roof to fit it or anything.
The one kit I was looking at was a little over 7,000. They say using everything that comes in the kit, no other modifications, they guarantee a minimum of 535 horsepower. And that's a chunk.
And that's for your LS1?
That's for the LS1. I can only imagine what it would be for the LS2.
That's really cool. Who did the kit?
can't remember the name of the brand that did that one.
How many miles are on this car?
It's like 114,000, I think.
114,000?
I got it with 104.
Oh, nice. And you've had this how long?
Just about a year.
About a year? Nice. Did you drive this last winter, or did you drive something else?
I did drive this through the winter. That was intense.
I bet.
Especially because if you take a look at the tires on it right now, I'm in desperate need of new tires. And driving on not great condition all seasons through that winter, that was an experience.
I bet. I don't think I'd want to have that experience.
There was a couple nights getting home from work where it took me an hour to get from one end of town to the other just to get home.
Wow.
Because there's no way I was going over 20 miles an hour.
I don't blame you. I remember when I first got my Monte Carlo, I drove that through the winter, and I tell you what, without some serious winter tires, I don't think I would do that again. This winter, I'm thinking I'm only going to be driving the Silverado, and so the GTO will probably be in the garage all winter, having something done to it. But
that's probably best anyway, so that you can keep it in good condition. You bring it out in the winter around here, and you're going to get it super salty and rusted real quick.
Absolutely. I think if you're going to drive them in the winter, it's important to wash them constantly.
For sure. I'm just in a situation where I wanted something fast, so I got this, but I don't have the money to have an alternative for the winters, so this is my daily. I'm going to get some fresh all seasons here in the next month or so, and I think that I'll have to be careful driving through winter, but I think I can handle it just fine. Although it's definitely not as convenient as driving a truck or something that's got all-wheel drive or something like that.
Right. Now let me ask you something. You were telling me earlier that you didn't really consider yourself much of a car guy before you bought this car, and you didn't really know a lot before you started driving this. Would you say this car has changed your mind about cars?
In a lot of ways, yeah. It's been kind of nice to be able to get some hands-on with a car that wasn't an old, like, 90s Corolla. Just to get hands on something like this and work with it more is kind of fun. So definitely, that's the problem, like with mechanics, they go through school hoping to work on these amazing cars, but then they end up working on a bunch of old beater cars, and so it kind of takes away the fun about it. So when you can surround yourself with a car like this, definitely puts back in the fun when it comes to the car stuff.
Absolutely. Now, what would you say would be the scariest thing you've ever done in this car was?
Probably going 118 miles an hour down a back road that was pretty bumpy.
Oh yeah, I can definitely see that. What kind of octane are you running in this car?
I just run the 91.
The 91. Have you had any tunes or anything done to this at all? No?
I would like to, but I'm hesitant about getting a lot of money dumped into this.
Alright, so we're under the hood of the 04 GTO. You can see that stock LS1 with the special GTO nameplate covers. Now, you were saying the only thing that's not stock on this was just a little bit of work on your mass airflow sensor?
Yeah, this here, when you're working on it, it's really easy to think you got it put on tight when it's really not. And as you're driving, it can come off. Well, whoever the guy was that worked on this before I bought the car didn't get it connected back up all the way. As I was driving it, it fell off, and the pulley rubbed through the connection for the mass airflow sensor, so I just had to basically get the new connector and solder it all in and all that.
Right. And it looks like there was a stereo system installed in this car.
Yeah, the last guy that had it, it's got the wiring, but really there's none of the actual sound system hooked up. It's just the stock speakers.
Oh, okay. Have you thought about putting a sound system in this one?
I've thought about it, but if I'm going to go for a new sound system, I'm going to go all the way, and so that's going to be a couple $1,000s.
Yeah, I put a sound system in my old Impala I used to drive before, and I was going to do it to the GTO as well, but there's just no room in the trunk, so for me it just didn't make sense.
The other thing is that because of the way the fuel tank's set up between the trunk and the back seat, if you had like a subwoofer back there, you're not going to get as much sound travel through, was basically what I thought might be something. So
absolutely. You'd have to put a lot of bass in it, and it would mostly go out the trunk, so But my biggest concern was running wires so close to the fuel tank, as well as having all that concussion on the fuel tank.
Yeah. I could see trying to actually do it in the back seats. If I took the back seats out, one of the spots I could try and set something up with a subwoofer in the back seat.
If you do that, let me know. We're gonna have to do a follow-up video on that. One last thing that I'd like to ask you about is, so when the GTO came out, between the years of 2004 and 2006, roughly 20,000 of them were made because people didn't really want to buy them. Now, I personally think it's because they were just so underappreciated, and as time went on, people decided that they were cool cars. And that's why they're hard to find now, because when people have them, they won't sell them. And when they do sell them, they're fairly expensive. Not too terribly bad. Like I believe I spent like 15 for mine. You spent how much on yours?
A little over 10,000.
A little over 10. Okay. Now there are less than 10,000 left because they're so easy to total, because they happen to have an issue with the front end, and if you happen to get in a head-on collision, they tend to total out fairly easily. And because they're so powerful and they were so inexpensive, inexperienced drivers would get behind the wheel of them and they would just wreck them. Now, for that reason, a lot of people have speculated that the 2004 to 2006 Pontiac GTO is going to be a rare collector's item at one point, just due to the low numbers, the high horsepower, and the ease of modding because it's an LS platform. Let me ask you this. Do you think that owning a car that could potentially be going way up in value is worth keeping it, or do you think that that's all just hearsay and they're not going to go up in value?
I think that depends on who you are as far as whether it's worth keeping. I do think that we'll start to see them go back up in value.
I would definitely agree. I think they will go up in value. Now, I don't think that it's something that like in the next 5 years they're going to be worth like 40 grand. Don't get me wrong on that. I think it's going to be like kind of like how my Monte Carlo is, where they weren't very valuable for very long, and then like recently they started going up in value, and that's from the 80s. So I think we're probably not going to see these cars go up like really high in value. I think in the mid-20s, then we're going to start seeing some interest rise, but they're not going to go way up in value until probably the 2030s.
Sounds about right to me.
All right, so we got a big thank you for Jason for letting us look at his 2004 GTO. Like I said, this is going to be one of many GTO videos, and the whole purpose behind this is to show just how good of a car the 2004 to 2006 GTOs are. The 2004s were the first ones. They had the LS1, they had the single exhaust, they had so many cool things, but they were considered unfinished. 2005 and 2006. 2005 got the most upgrades, then the 2006 got just a couple extra things, but they were fantastic cars. I definitely recommend, if you find one, buy one. It's going to be worth it. You're gonna like it, guaranteed. And we're gonna go ahead and end right here. So thank you very much for watching Casey's Garage, and you guys have a great day.